Welcome to this special webinar series presented by the New York Genealogical and Biographical Society. Before we begin, as a reminder, you can always check out our e-news and our website for information on future webinars and other events. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/nyfamilyhistory and Twitter at nyfamilyhistory. You can also follow our blog at nygbs.org/blog. Please note that this presentation, the contents, handouts, slides, and all other materials associated with the lecture are under copyright and may not be reproduced or shared without prior written permission of the speaker and the NYG&B. My name is Joshua Taylor, and I'm the president of the NYG&B, and it's my pleasure to present to you resources of the DAR, Beyond Revolutionary War Soldiers. I've been a fan of the DAR for many, many years. The organization, which was founded in 1890, today includes thousands and thousands of women who all proudly share and explore their Revolutionary War heritage. For genealogists, however, the DAR has created a massive database and a massive library that, while focused on the Revolutionary War period, really focuses on the descendants of soldiers that stretch through the federal period, all with the goal to link an individual back to the American Revolution. If you haven't had a chance to visit Washington, D.C. yet and explore the amazing DAR library, I encourage you to do so. It's full of original and published materials, records from the organization. It's open to all researchers, and they have what I consider one of the best call number systems for genealogists. They organize items by county and record type. And for those of you who research in libraries under other call number systems, you know that sometimes they don't always make the most sense. But when I walk into the DAR, I certainly feel right at home. On site, in addition to the printed collections, they have microfilm materials, manuscript collections, and a fantastic collection of WPA surveys that allow you to explore what records were in existence when the WPA surveys were done in the 1930s and 1940s. Of course, for those of us who might have relatives who applied to be part of the DAR, those early applications might have limited sources, and you might also run into a closed line. Modern applications for membership in the DAR, of course, are vetted with thorough research and oftentimes will be attached with original materials. DAR members are also encouraged to add additional applications. These supplemental applications can also be great resources for genealogical research. Many of us are probably familiar with the process of going to the DAR and looking to see if you can obtain a copy of an application that a relative might have submitted for membership. The DAR's website at dar.org gives a great overview of their collection, but also has incredible online databases and publications for you to access. From the website, a visit to the library or the archives tab tells you more about the organization, but they've even set up a specific section dedicated just to genealogy. Here's where you begin to uncover the Genealogical Research System, or the GRS, which includes the Ancestor Search, the Member Search, the Descendants database, and the GRC Reports, which we'll look at in just a moment. You can also get an overview of the library and its materials, and learn about the amazing publications presented by the DAR. The DAR has been releasing state source guides for genealogists and historians, specifically geared towards the Revolutionary period. One of the first guides was actually a guide for tracing New York Revolutionary War period, which has several chapters that outlines terrific resources available to you as genealogists, typically on site in a library or an archive somewhere across the United States or even within New York State. By and large, one of the hidden gems of the DAR's website is the Genealogical Research System. Now, I want to point out that at the bottom of the page, they make it very, very clear that resource in the GRS is not to be used for commercial purposes, and it's supposed to be used for private individuals as well as for those working on DAR applications. So just make sure that you respect the DAR's wishes and that you don't necessarily publish this information elsewhere and that you don't use it for any commercial purpose. The Genealogical Research System is composed of various databases that all include information from the DAR's lineage applications. The Ancestor Search will examine individuals in their database that are considered to be a patriot of the DAR. Remember that membership in the DAR is not qualified by simply a soldier who fought on the battlefield. It's a patriot. It's someone who represented and gave support to the Revolutionary War cause. A search in the Ancestor Search provides individual's name, their service, their birth or death dates, their spouse, and any associated applications. You can also, of course, order applications for a fee to see how the lineage is broken down from the individual that submitted that information. Looking at the search screen, it's very, very straightforward. If you happen to know that the last name sort of an ancestor and the first name, you could put that in and do a search. You can also add information about someone's spouse if you happen to have those details. So we're going to do a very, very quick search here for Joe Pierce. In the search for Joe Pierce, we have a lot of individuals that come up. The second one there is what you might dread to see if you're looking for membership in the DAR, which says that this line may not be used for membership. They've found that the service is likely didn't qualify, that there was a confusion of multiple individuals. But the other lines thus far, at least, appear to be like they're eligible for service. Though again, just because someone's listed here, that isn't necessarily a guarantee. You still have a lot of work to do. But from a genealogical perspective, you actually now have a database of those that are patriots of the DAR that actually includes not only birth and death information, but actually provides source information about their service and more about their lives. Clicking on a specific ancestor identifies different applications that might be submitted for that individual. So we clicked on the individual whose line is no longer eligible, and there's a couple of early national numbers there that we could click on to at least get some basic overview of that information if we wanted to. But from the beginning, I'm going to go back to this Joe Pierce, who appeared to have a lot of individuals who actually had applied for membership. And what's great about this is you're also descendant hunting at this point. So if you're looking to find descendants for a DNA study, if you're looking to connect for other records, this is a great resource to find descendants of that soldier. Because underneath the residence and spouse, there's an area for associated applications and supplementals. This tells you the national DAR number of the person who submitted that application. If there are documents, there'll be the D for docs. It will tell you which child of the patriot that individual submitted under, and it will give you a spouse of that child. So right there, you have a very, very good idea that national number 5924 is a descendant of Job's daughter Elizabeth, while national number 61105 is a descendant of Job's son Levi. So you're very, very easily able to figure out exactly who is who from this very, very basic viewpoint of a lineage application. You can, of course, if you want, do an in-depth descendant search and get a better view of who these individuals are. Now, of course, if a person is living, you won't be able to see that exact name, and they'll restrict and protect their privacy. That's what you see there under 861833 under name restricted. But if they've passed away and if those records are open and available for you to view, you'll get the name of the actual DAR member, and you can then click and actually view their application as it was presented. So you can find their exact line of descent from Joe Pierce. So if we're looking at the descendants list of Anna Davis Jones Chapman, if you go to number 4 at the bottom of the screen there, Anna Pierce was the child of Joe Pierce, and then it begins to outline the line from there. What I'm always amazed at in some of these applications are, even though Miss Chapman, who joined the DAR, was not a Pierce. In fact, the Pierce surname sort of faded out in her family very, very early on, but that was her Revolutionary Patriot. And so we've just found a descendant of this patriot who we might not have found through other research. You can do some in-depth advanced search with the Ancestor Search, and this is especially key. You can add in things like their rank or their occupation, their county, their city, their state. If you know what their pension number was, you can search by pension number. And again, you can use these fields in various combinations as you work to build part of your search. You can also do a search just specifically for children of Revolutionary War patriots. This is one of my favorite hidden searches in the DAR website, because I might not know that the father of the person I'm researching was actually a patriot of the Revolution. I might only know that I have someone born, say, 1790 in Pennsylvania or 1785 in New York, and I have no idea who their parents are. At the very least, I can come in and do a search for that individual, and I can at least get a database of all individuals that match that name with a spouse first or last name that are at least connected to a patriot. Even if I don't find an exact match for the person that I'm looking for, this is a great tool as you're working to conduct research to figure out which individual you might actually be related to. If you're looking for two James Williams that are born around the same period, you might find that one has already been identified as the child of a DAR patriot, while the other one has not. So it just helps you as you're trying to research and find more details about these individuals. So here we see the results of all of the Revolutionary War patriots that have a child named James Williams. So there's a man named James Williams, there's a Francis Williams, there's Frederick Williams, and you begin to see sort of, you can click on any of the national numbers there, and you can then view those applications. You can also do some pretty clever searches. So let's say that you know that your James Williams married a woman named Mary, but you're not sure what Mary's maiden name is. Here you can do a search and limit your results just to those individuals. So these are children of Revolutionary War patriots who married a woman with the first name of Mary. So again, when you're looking at common names, little clues like that can be absolutely essential as you're working to put together this information. So a very powerful tool, and that's the child search, again, found under the sort of ancestor search. You click the ancestor search, and on the right of the screen there, you can click the child search option and do that specific search. From here, of course, we can look and you can actually view those applications, or you can view at least the summaries, and then you can click through and order those applications. If you happen to know an individual was a member of the DAR and you have their national number, you can actually do an exact search within the member search of the DAR website. So you can come in to the search options, click member search. In this case, I know that national member 480190 was actually my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother, whose ancestors came from Massachusetts and New York, though she lived in Idaho when she applied for membership in the DAR. Here I can find her in the entry, I can click, and I can actually get a view of the application that she submitted as part of the process to become a member of the DAR. So I have at least the outline of the family, and it notes that her father, King Brown, was born in Cornwall, New York, which confirms my connection back to the Brown family there. And if I wanted to, of course, I could order a copy of the DAR lineage application, which became very, very important because for some reason, the genealogist in the family, which is myself, didn't end up with a copy of the file for a while, but I got it eventually. The other really interesting thing about the links within the ancestor search is that you can also see others who have joined the DAR off of that same patriot. So I'm under my great-grandmother's member search page, and if I click the name of the ancestor there, that Joe Pierce, I can actually see below all of the members of the DAR that have applied for membership under the same ancestor as my great-grandmother. So in theory, all of these are distant cousins, which again might have more resources and could help direct my research. So this is a great way, again, to meet more cousins and to help to verify things as the line moves forward. The DAR has also made a Descendants database available that tracks more than 7 million descendants of Revolutionary War patriots. This database is amazing because, again, as a researcher, you may not know that someone's father or great-grandfather or grandfather or even great-great-grandfather was a patriot in the American Revolution. But the database has 7 million names, all lineage linked, that will go back to a patriot, which allows you to do research within the DAR materials. So you can come into the database, you can look for a last name and a first name. If you know where they were born or have a state, you can absolutely do that search. So we're going to look for George Stiles. And here we see all of the individuals with the name of George Stiles that are descended somehow from a Revolutionary War patriot. This type of research is extremely beneficial to us because, again, we don't always know someone's grandparent or someone's great-grandparent, but in this case, this might be able to give us details about their lineage. We might be able to solve a couple of brick walls because you can go in and view the outline of the application, and you can then see how those families begin to line up. There are also some advanced features in the Descendants search, which are very, very powerful. If you come under search options and advanced search, you can add in a state of death. You can add in information about a spouse's last name and first name and the state of that spouse's birth or death. This can be another powerful search. Let's say, for example, all you knew was that a man with the last name of Davis had a wife with the first name of Martha. You could actually do a search and find all of those individuals who are descendants of patriots who have the last name of Davis who married a woman named Martha. Again, that's a pretty powerful search, particularly as you're trying to piece together some of the elements within a particular tree, or you might only have clues from a probate record or from a land record, and you're looking to fill in the gaps. So the Descendants search, again, more than 7 million names, all lineage linked, and provides some great details as you're working through the databases. You can also, of course, add other details. You can say, all right, I want a last name of Davis, first name of Martha, but I want them to die in the state of Ohio. And again, you can see what matches actually come up as that part of the search. So again, just a great resource as you're working through some of the materials in the DAR databases. The DAR is also very well known for the Genealogical Records Committee, or the GRC reports. Those are transcriptions and compilations done by local DAR chapters, and online you can search a rough index to figure out if there might be materials in specific volumes that are available for you that you might want to do some research in. If you're on site at the DAR library in Washington, D.C., you can actually pull up these images. If not, you can usually find a copy at a local library. You can always pay to have the DAR go in and probably get a copy of that page for you. The GRC reports literally have preserved records from all across the country. Many of them have been microfilmed. Some of them are available at state libraries. For example, the collections from New York, there's a very, very large set of them available at the New York State Library in Albany. So that's why a lot of folks go to Albany specifically to use those resources there, because they're great transcriptions and compilations from New York records that document families from the federal period. You can do a general search in the GRC. You can limit by state or surname or first name. So in this case, I'm just going to do a quick search for the surname of Stiles just to see what's available. And we see all sorts of different results that come up. So there's literally someone with the surname of Stiles in an Alabama GRC report, in a California GRC report. And if I click through, I get an idea of the names that are associated on that same page. Now, this is sort of that rough index of the collection, right? So I know that there's a state series in Alabama, volume 45, page 35 has all of these different names on it. Now, this could be Bible records, it could be a cemetery transcription, it could be a church record transcription. There's a lot of different things that this could be. I would have to go through and actually find that volume to figure out exactly what's on that page and actually get a copy of it to provide the details that I need. This is why oftentimes in my search, I'll work to limit with an exact state or even adding in a first name or a last name. So for example, looking for just Stiles in the state of New York, I see all the different records, and because some of the titles are very specific, I know at least where some of the counties might be from. So I know that the one sort of midway down the screen is from Madison County, New York, because I know the chapter it was from. And I can always click through in the library catalog, and then I get details that this is a GRC report. It's volume 291, unpublished records. They're vital records from a county in New York before 1880, and I at least know where I can find that at the DAR library if I'm on site, though I could also look for the specific published volume if it's been copied and reproduced at the state library in Albany, New York, or at other public libraries, which many of them, again, are accessible in various formats. So going back into the GRC index search, because I know that I found someone with the right surname and I really like the entries I was finding in volume 166, I'm going to do a search for everyone that shares that surname in the same series and volume. Here is where I begin to see and get an idea at least of what I'm looking at. So these are individuals with the name of Stiles, and they're in volume 166, and you see all the different pages they're on their church records. When I actually look at these transcriptions, they're actually transcribing, and these are all the children of Ashbel Stiles and their baptism. How do I know that? Well, I had to go get the actual record, but you see Ashbel appears so often in the entry because they're son or daughter of Ashbel Stiles. But again, the type of resources that you're finding here, some of these records no longer exist. Some of them are very, very difficult to find. And again, this is where the DAR GRC search can be a great benefit to you in your research. There are also some other resources on the DAR website that are incredibly important for us to use as researchers. The Revolutionary Pension Card Index, the Analytical Card Index, and the Bible Records and Transcriptions. Let's take just a brief look at a few of these. The Revolutionary Pension Card Index allows you to search through, as it says, a card index of Revolutionary pension files. Once you find an entry, you can view the card that you want to take a look at, and here we know that Aaron Stiles had a pension S28900 from New Jersey, and it gives you at least an idea that that pension does exist. Within the database, though, this is what gets incredibly interesting, is that if you click on an entry within the database, it directly links to that person's entry in the ancestors database of the sort of DAR's website. So what this gives you is a direct link from an entry in a pension card back to an entry in the actual DAR lineage files, which helps you to see individuals that have applied for memberships and actually gives you more context about that person's descendant. So whenever I have an ancestor that I have a pension file for, or even a Revolutionary War pension and I'm not sure how they're connected, I go into the DAR's website, I go into the Revolutionary War Pension Card Index, I find them and I link and I see if anyone has submitted for membership in the DAR under that Revolutionary War patriot. Again, it's an incredible tool that allows you to actually present information and find details about someone where you might only have a specific pension record. Other resources that you can find on the DAR website are the DAR Library Analytical Card Index. Now, I'm a big fan of card indexes. I know that card catalogs are sort of out of style, and to find one in a library now is extremely difficult unless you go down to the basement and sort of dig through the cobwebs. But the DAR has digitized their analytical card index. What this specific card index does is it indexes resources from printed, published, and local histories. For New York researchers, this means that it will index a number of the local histories and some of the mug books that were printed up for counties all around New York. So to access the analytical index cards, I come to the search, I select the letter of the surname that I'm after, I start to browse through, I sort of narrow down more and more specifically based upon the first 4 letters of that surname, and then I can start to browse through the cards. So here it tells that there is a record of this particular family in a history of North Carolina, published in 1919, gives me the volume and the page number. So this is a great way to find some of these published resources and published family histories and sketches that you might not necessarily have come across yet in your research. Sometimes you'll find entries within a specific sort of history. So this is a history of Southport of Maine about the Grimes family. Again, all sorts of treasures that you can find within these resources. Now, to come back to the beginning as we talk about how to use the DAR for genealogical research, I want to stress that the DAR's databases are a terrific resource for anyone tracing ancestors in the US, say between 1780 and upwards, because they gather information about descendants of Revolutionary War patriots. The lineage search that we looked at with the child search and the Descendants search, again, you have more than 7 million individuals to search in that Descendants database that are all pedigree linked and all will have some type of a source to link back as you try and build that individual family tree. Those GRC reports are absolutely priceless. Again, they're nationwide, they have key materials, they have Bible records, they have cemetery records. They're absolutely essential for a lot of the resources that we can't find anymore. Even with the cemeteries, as cemeteries over time, as the tombstones become more and more unreadable, we oftentimes, I give a lot of thanks and praise to a DAR member that went in and transcribed that cemetery in 1920 or 1930, because when I visited in 2018, it's very, very hard to read those stones. The pension index and the analytical index, again, are all fantastic and are resources that we should be using as we're looking at the DAR's website. And don't forget, you can also visit the DAR on site in Washington, DC for the library where you can access these collections and many, many more materials as part of your research. So that concludes this mini webinar about resources of the DAR beyond Revolutionary War soldiers. I hope you've learned a couple of tips for those DAR members that are watching. I hope that you continue to use the resources presented by the wonderful organization that you're a part of. And again, it's all about preserving and connecting these stories. And so every genealogist should be very, very grateful to the DAR. Just for listening, I want to make sure that you know about a special offer to join the NYG&B. Membership in the NYG&B includes access to online New York collections, vital records indexes, religious records, more than 1 million names that are indexed as part of the New York Genealogical and Biographical Record, cemetery transcriptions, and so much more. It also gives you access to publications in the New York Genealogical and Biographical Record, as well as the New York Researcher. You can also get online programs, discounts to products and events, and all sorts of things as you join the NYG&B community. If you'd like to save $5 on a new annual membership, visit nygbs.org/join, nygbs.org/join, and enter the code DAR Save 5 at checkout. That's just the number 5 shown on your screen there, and you'll save $5 on a new annual membership. Also, if you happen to be planning to visit Tarrytown, New York in September of 2018, or if you have an open weekend, I'd like to invite you to attend the New York State Family History Conference. This event is held every other year and is New York's only statewide conference for family history. We'll talk about DNA, we'll talk about religious records, we'll talk about probate records, we'll talk about using Ancestor.com and a number of other resources that will help you trace your New York roots. You can register online for NYSFIC at nysfhc.org/register, and space is limited, so be sure to register today.